What if the greatest obstacle in your life is not your enemies, not your circumstances, but the version of yourself you keep protecting? The person you refuse to leave behind may be quietly destroying the future waiting for you. Today you will discover why your mind fights your own evolution, why comfort is more dangerous than failure, and how forcing yourself to outgrow your old identity unlocks a life you cannot even imagine yet. Before we begin, answer this honestly. Have you ever felt as though you have outgrown your surroundings, yet somehow you keep repeating the same habits, making the same choices, and returning to the same emotional patterns? If your answer is yes, stay until the end, because the final realization may completely change the way you see yourself. And while you're listening, tell me in the comments, what is one version of yourself you are ready to leave behind forever? Your answer may inspire someone else who feels trapped inside their own past. The most dangerous prison is the one that feels like home. Many people believe they remain in painful situations because they lack strength, opportunity, or luck. Yet beneath these explanations lies a deeper truth. The human mind naturally clings to what is familiar, even when that familiarity causes suffering. An old identity, shaped by years of repeated experiences, convinces you that predictable pain is safer than uncertain freedom. This is why someone can complain about their life every day while resisting every genuine chance to change it. The unknown feels more threatening than the disappointment they already understand. Your habits, beliefs, and emotional reactions become part of a psychological pattern that quietly defines who you think you are. Over time, this pattern stops feeling like a choice and begins to feel like destiny. You may tell yourself that you are simply being realistic, but what you call realism is often fear wearing the mask of wisdom. Every time you return to the same excuses, the same routines, or the same relationships that drain your spirit, you reinforce the old version of yourself. The mind mistakes repetition for security, even when repetition is slowly stealing your future. That is why growth always feels uncomfortable at first. It asks you to release a version of yourself that has become deeply familiar, even if that version has never truly served you. The moment you decide to step beyond your old limits, an inner resistance begins to rise. Doubt grows louder. Anxiety appears. The temptation to return to your previous life becomes almost irresistible. These reactions are not proof that you are making the wrong decision. They reveal that your identity is being challenged. Real transformation begins when you recognize that comfort is not always a sign of peace. Sometimes comfort is only the absence of movement. Sometimes the safest place your mind can imagine is the very place where your potential slowly disappears, hidden beneath routines that no longer reflect the person you are capable of becoming. The old version of you will always ask for one more day, one more excuse, and one more reason to stay the same, while your future quietly waits for the courage to let that version go. Every sincere attempt to become a better version of yourself awakens an invisible resistance from within. This resistance does not come from the world first. It rises from the hidden parts of your own mind. The fears you buried, the doubts you ignored, the painful memories you never confronted, and the limiting beliefs you quietly accepted all begin to surface the moment you decide to change. Most people mistake this inner conflict as evidence that they are not meant to grow. In reality, it is proof that transformation has already begun. The old identity senses that its control is being threatened, and it responds by pulling you back toward familiar patterns. This hidden resistance often disguises itself as logic. It whispers that now is not the right time, that you should wait until you feel more confident, or that your dreams are unrealistic. It reminds you of every past failure while conveniently ignoring every lesson you gain from those experiences. The mind would rather repeat a familiar disappointment than risk an unfamiliar success. That is why people often sabotage their own progress just before a breakthrough. They return to old habits, reconnect with destructive environments, or abandon meaningful goals because the discomfort of becoming someone new feels overwhelming. What they call caution is frequently the old self fighting for survival. The deeper challenge is that these unconscious forces cannot simply be silenced. They must be recognized and understood. Every fear carries a message about the part of you that still believes it is weak, unworthy, or incapable. Instead of running from these emotions, observe them with honesty. Ask yourself why they appear whenever you move closer to your potential. You may discover that the greatest obstacle has never been external circumstances, but an outdated identity that no longer reflects who you are becoming. The moment you stop obeying those unconscious fears, they begin to lose their power. Your shadow no longer controls your future because you have finally chosen awareness over avoidance, courage over comfort, and growth over the illusion of safety. Every meaningful transformation begins with a loss that few people are willing to accept. Before a stronger, wiser, and more capable version of you can emerge, the old identity must come to an end. This is not a physical death, but a psychological one. It is the gradual disappearance of the beliefs, habits, excuses, and emotional patterns that have shaped your life until now. Many people dream of becoming someone new while desperately trying to preserve everything about the person they have always been. They want different results without surrendering the mindset that created their current reality. Yet life does not work that way. A new identity cannot grow where the old one refuses to let go. This inner death often feels confusing because it changes the way you see yourself and the world around you. The things that once excited you may no longer hold your attention. Conversations that once felt comfortable may suddenly seem empty. Certain relationships begin to weaken because they were built around a version of you that no longer exists. Even your daily routines start to feel unfamiliar. These changes can create loneliness and uncertainty, making you wonder if you are losing yourself. In truth, you are not losing yourself. You are losing the mask you wore for so long that you mistook it for your true identity. The discomfort comes from releasing what is familiar, not from becoming who you are meant to be. The greatest mistake during this stage is trying to return to the old version simply because it feels safe. The past will always invite you back with memories of comfort, but comfort is not the same as purpose. Every time you choose growth over familiarity, you strengthen the identity you are creating. You begin making decisions based on who you want to become, rather than who you used to be. Eventually, the old fears lose their influence because they belong to someone who no longer exists. The person who emerges from this process is not perfect, but they are authentic, resilient, and free from the invisible chains that once defined every choice they made. The moment you begin leaving your old identity behind, you should expect emotional discomfort to appear. Many people believe that growth should feel inspiring from the very beginning, but true transformation rarely starts with confidence. It usually begins with uncertainty, loneliness, frustration, and the unsettling feeling that your life no longer fits the person you are becoming. These emotions are often misunderstood. They are treated as signs that something has gone wrong, when in reality, they are evidence that your inner world is reorganizing itself. Just as the body feels pain while healing from a wound, the mind experiences discomfort while breaking free from years of limiting beliefs and familiar patterns. One of the greatest reasons people abandon their personal growth is because they mistake temporary discomfort for permanent failure. They expect immediate clarity, but instead they encounter confusion. They expect instant peace, but instead they face resistance from within. Old habits call them back because those habits require no effort. Old relationships tempt them because they demand no change. Even the smallest steps toward a better life can feel exhausting because every decision challenges an identity that has existed for years. The emotional tension you feel during this process is not your enemy. It is the bridge between who you have been and who you are capable of becoming. Every difficult emotion carries the invitation to become stronger rather than retreat. Think of a seed buried beneath the soil. Before it reaches the sunlight, it must first push through darkness, pressure, and resistance. If the seed could feel, it might believe the pressure is destroying it, when in truth the pressure is shaping its growth. Human transformation follows the same pattern. The loneliness you experience while outgrowing old environments, the fear that appears before taking a bold step, and the uncertainty that follows every meaningful decision are not barriers placed in your path. They are part of the path itself. When you stop running from discomfort and begin walking through it with courage, you discover that freedom has never existed on the comfortable side of change. It has always waited on the other side of your willingness to endure temporary pain for lasting transformation. The world around you often changes only after something deeper changes within you. Most people spend years trying to control external circumstances while ignoring the internal patterns that quietly shape every decision they make. They blame bad luck, difficult people, or unfavorable conditions, believing that life will improve only when something outside of them changes. Yet the most powerful transformation begins in the unseen places of the mind. Your beliefs influence your choices shape your habits, and your habits slowly create the reality you experience. Long before your circumstances shift, your identity has already begun leading you in a new direction. This is why genuine change is first invisible and only later becomes visible to everyone else. As you outgrow the old version of yourself, you begin seeing the world through different eyes. Situations that once discouraged you become opportunities to grow. Criticism that once shattered your confidence becomes useful feedback. Relationships that were built on insecurity or dependence begin to lose their influence because they no longer match the person you are becoming. At the same time, healthier connections, meaningful opportunities, and unexpected possibilities often begin appearing. This does not happen because the universe suddenly favors you. It happens because your new identity notices possibilities that your old identity was too fearful to recognize. You stop chasing what validates your past and start building what reflects your future. People around you may not understand these changes. Some will question your decisions, criticize your boundaries, or even try to pull you back into the version of yourself they have always known. Remember that every relationship is built around an expectation of who you are. When you change, those expectations are challenged. Not everyone will celebrate your evolution because your growth reminds them of the changes they have avoided in their own lives. Do not mistake their discomfort for your mistake. Continue becoming the person whose actions are guided by purpose rather than approval. The external world may resist your transformation for a season, but eventually it begins responding to the confidence, clarity, and resilience that now define your character. When your inner life changes, your outer life gradually follows, revealing opportunities that once seemed invisible because the old version of you was never prepared to see them. Self-discipline is often misunderstood as a life of restriction, pressure, or constant sacrifice. Many people imagine it as forcing yourself to suffer for the sake of success. But real discipline is something far deeper. It is an act of profound self-respect. Every disciplined decision sends a quiet message to your mind. My future matters more than my temporary comfort. The old version of you is driven by impulses, emotions, and immediate gratification. It chooses what feels good in the moment, even when those choices create regret later. The stronger version of you understands that every small decision is a vote for the identity you are building. Discipline is not about controlling your life through fear. It is about directing your life through purpose. Every morning presents a silent battle that no one else can see. One voice urges you to stay where it is easy, to postpone difficult work, to avoid uncomfortable conversations, and to settle for habits that require no effort. The other voice reminds you of the person you promised yourself you would become. The difference between an ordinary life and an extraordinary one is rarely talent or intelligence. More often, it is the willingness to obey the second voice, even when the first feels louder. Your future is not shaped by occasional moments of inspiration. It is shaped by the repeated choices you make when no one is watching and when excuses seem completely reasonable. The remarkable truth is that discipline becomes easier the more you practice it. At first, every disciplined action feels unnatural because it challenges years of familiar behavior. But over time, those difficult choices become your new normal. The habits that once required effort begin to define your character. You no longer exercise because you feel motivated. You exercise because that is who you are. You no longer pursue your goals only when circumstances are perfect. You continue because your identity has changed. This is the hidden power of discipline. It quietly replaces the old version of you, one decision at a time. Long before the world notices your success, discipline has already transformed your mind, strengthened your character, and prepared you to carry the responsibilities that your future will require. Your future is not created by one dramatic decision. It is built through thousands of quiet choices that seem insignificant in the moment, but become life-changing when repeated over time. Most people wait for a breakthrough, believing that one extraordinary opportunity will transform everything. Yet lasting transformation rarely arrives through a single event. It emerges from the identity you reinforce every single day. Every action, no matter how small, answers an important question. Who are you becoming? The answer is not found in your intentions or your dreams. It is found in the habits you repeat when no one is watching. Every time you choose courage over fear, discipline over comfort, honesty over excuses, or growth over familiarity, you cast another vote for the future version of yourself. The old version of you was not created overnight. It was formed through years of repeated thoughts, emotional reactions, and daily routines. In exactly the same way, the new version of you is shaped by consistent decisions rather than sudden inspiration. Reading one book will not transform your life, but becoming someone who reads every day will. Exercising once will not change your body, but becoming a person who refuses to neglect their health will. Speaking confidently one time will not erase years of self-doubt, but repeatedly choosing courage over silence will slowly rewrite the story you tell yourself. Identity is never built through isolated moments. It is constructed through patterns that become so familiar they eventually define your character. Many people fail because they focus only on visible results. They become discouraged when progress is slow, forgetting that the deepest changes happen beneath the surface long before they appear on the outside. Just as roots grow unseen before a tree rises toward the sky, your identity is quietly strengthening before your success becomes visible. Every disciplined choice is adding another layer to the person you are becoming, even if no one notices yet. One day others will admire your confidence, resilience, and achievements, believing they appeared suddenly. They will never see the countless invisible decisions that shape them. Your future self is not waiting for luck or perfect timing. It is being created by the choices you make today, tomorrow, and every ordinary day that follows until extraordinary becomes your new normal. One of the greatest illusions people believe is that there will come a day when they finally become the finished version of themselves. They imagine reaching a point where all struggles disappear, all questions are answered, and all growth comes to an end. But life does not reward those who seek permanence. It continually invites those who are willing to evolve. Every stage of your journey demands a different version of you. The person who was strong enough to survive yesterday may not be prepared for the responsibilities of tomorrow. If you cling too tightly to the identity that once protected you, it can quietly become the very thing that limits your future. Growth is not a destination you arrive at. It is a lifelong willingness to release what no longer serves the person you are becoming. Every new chapter asks you to surrender something. Sometimes it is an old belief that kept you small. Sometimes it is a relationship that no longer supports your growth. Sometimes it is pride, fear, or the constant need for approval. The painful truth is that every meaningful transformation requires another farewell to the familiar. The people who continue evolving are not necessarily the most gifted or the most intelligent. They are simply the ones who refuse to believe that yesterday's success is enough for today's purpose. They understand that becoming stronger does not mean becoming rigid. It means remaining humble enough to keep learning, courageous enough to keep changing, and wise enough to recognize when an old identity has reached the end of its usefulness. Look back at every season of your life. There was a version of you that believed it had all the answers, yet time revealed there is still more to discover. The same will be true of the person you are today. Years from now, you will look back and realize that this version of yourself was only another step in a much greater journey. That realization should not discourage you. It should fill you with hope. It means your greatest potential is never trapped in your past achievements or your present limitations. It always exists just beyond the edge of your current identity, waiting for you to choose growth once again. The strongest people are not those who refuse to change. They are the ones who repeatedly have the courage to outgrow themselves, embracing each new beginning as another opportunity to become more authentic, more resilient, and more fully alive. So ask yourself one final question. If the person you are today met the person you could become 5 years from now, would they recognize each other? Or would they be separated by the fears you refuse to confront, the habits you refuse to break, and the comforts you refuse to leave behind? The truth is that your greatest enemy has never been failure. It has been your attachment to an identity that no longer belongs in your future. Every excuse, every delay, and every moment spent waiting for the perfect time has quietly strengthened the old version of you. But beginning today, you have another choice. You can stop negotiating with the life you have outgrown and start becoming the person your future has been waiting for. Remember, transformation is not a single decision. It is a daily commitment. Every difficult choice, every uncomfortable step, every act of discipline, and every moment you refuse to return to old patterns is another victory over the person you used to be. The world may not notice these small victories at first, but your character will. And in time, your character will shape your destiny. Do not fear the loneliness that sometimes comes with growth. Do not fear the uncertainty that appears when familiar paths disappear. Those moments are not signs that you are lost. They are signs that you are moving beyond the boundaries of your former self. The strongest trees do not grow in perfect conditions. They grow because they continue reaching upward through storms, darkness, and resistance. You are no different. One day you will look back and realize that the hardest battle was never against other people. It was against the voice inside you that begged you to remain the same. And the moment you stopped listening to that voice, your entire life began to change. So leave the old version of yourself where it belongs, in the past. Walk forward with courage. Embrace the uncertainty that accompanies real growth, and become someone your former self would never have believed possible. Your future is not waiting for luck. It is waiting for the moment you finally decide that who you are becoming matters more than who you have been.